In this presentation, we will be looking at object MU3289, the Corinthian Aryballos. Firstly, it is important to get a sense of scale, as this is key to understanding its purpose and how it would be interacted with on a personal level. It is much smaller than it appears, only 76.5 millimeters tall, and the same measurement at its widest point. This is an extremely small vessel and would not hold much. Its handle is just 16.6 millimeters wide, much too small to function as a true handle. The opening is only 11.9 millimeters wide, so the liquid held inside would be dispensed in small quantities. These features are all key to the purpose of the Aryballos, which was the holding and dispensing of perfumed oils. This explains its petite size, as perfumed oil was a more expensive commodity and sold in smaller quantities. It would also have been for personal use, and as such only needed in small amounts. The Aryballos has been depicted strung around the wrist of athletes at the gymnasium. The handle is well sized for a string or lace of some kind to be weaved through, allowing for it to be conveniently carried, as is depicted here on this Attic grave stele dated at 530 BC. The Aryballos clearly became an important part of the ritual of exercise and cleanliness in the ancient Greek world. The Aryballos also has a large presence in grave sites throughout the Mediterranean, highlighting the importance of perfumed oils in funerary rites throughout many cultures at the time. It serves not only a ritualistic purpose, but also a very practical purpose in disguising and inhibiting the smells associated with the decomposition of the dead. Now to dating the object. A good indication for its period is its shape. Throughout the Proto-Corinthian period, the Aryballos went through a number of variations before settling on the round shape, which would dominate the early and middle Corinthian periods. During the early period, the bottom was slowly changed from fully rounded into a flattened base, likely as this was more practical. Our Aryballos is flat-bottomed, and its shape fits best with the Middle Corinthian period. It is decorated in the black figure style with details incised. This style was developed in Corinth during the Proto-Corinthian periods. The incision and innovation inspired by the intricate designs of metal vessels from the Orient, like this Cypro-Phoenician metal bowl. Incision allowed for greater detail and is imperative to the complex, often figural designs on the miniature-sized Aryballos. The decorative features along the shoulder, handle, neck, and base fit well with the typical decoration for either the early or middle Corinthian periods. The incised rosettes that fill the central frieze are common from the early all the way through to the late Corinthian periods, and are a motif borrowed from the East but adapted into a Corinthian style. As for the figural decoration, this Aryballos depicts comasts, otherwise known as padded dances. This motif is produced from 630 to 570 BC, at its peak during the early and middle Corinthian periods. The padded dances are an interesting phenomenon, and seem to be a Corinthian invention. They are easily identifiable as a number of dancing men with beards, belted tunics, and padded bellies and posteriors. As you can see, our object is of a much lower artistic quality than the example on the right. This may place it as a later example, as the motif became more formulaic and sloppy over time. This also aligns with the progression of the silhouette of the comast, which would slowly lose its padding and become slimmer as the motif reached the end of its production. All this aligns well with the dating for our object being around 575 BC. As to the meaning and significance of the comasts, there are a few different interpretations, with some linking them to early Greek drama, notably the comast dance, the first dithyramb, and the satyr play. The padded dances do have strong links with both Symposium and the god Dionysus, often portrayed drinking whilst dancing and in scenes with Dionysus himself. This leads into the Greek traditions of storytelling and performance, which is enhanced by the comical padding, which seems to denote costumery. The dances are often shown alongside mythological scenes, which some believe implies that the dancers are performing the stories. Many parallels have been drawn between the depictions of comasts and satyrs, which will provide a further link to early Greek drama. This theory has its issues though, as the first comast seems to be pre-dramatic, even though their height aligns well with the emergence of Greek drama. Their association with Dionysus can be interpreted, sometimes in parallel, as depictions of Dionysiac ritual and worship. As Greek theatre has its roots there, it makes sense that there would be symbolic overlap. A link could also be drawn between the comast, in particular those depicted with club feet, and the politics of Corinth. Siskowski, in her piece Club Feet and the Kypselids, proposes that they may have been a localized symbol offering political commentary on historical traditions of lameness or disability within the tyrannical family of Corinth. At any rate, this subset of the club-footed padded dancer provides a rare insight into physical disability in ancient Greece, which has a history of the rejection and exclusion of the physically disabled, culminating in the practice of infanticide. As a final point, the Aryballos provides an interesting case study on trade in Corinth. It displays the orientalizing influence of imports from the East, whilst also highlighting the huge export market of the Corinthian perfume and pottery industries. As you can see, the Aryballos and its decoration provide many interesting clues and lines of inquiry about life in ancient Corinth.